Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I appreciate your patience as we started just a couple minutes late. I wanted to begin with just a few housekeeping items as we prepare for our workshop, leveraging LinkedIn for research opportunities, networking, and visibility. So first, oops, pardon me. Let me try again as I lost my screen. First, some housekeeping. Please keep yourself when you are muted, when you are not speaking. If you want to speak, especially during the Q&A, we will unmute you. The cameras for everybody except for the presenters are being kept off in consideration of potential network connectivity issues. Please do feel free to use the chat function for comments and questions throughout the presentation. There will be a dedicated time for Q&A at the end of the event. And just to let you know that this event is being recorded and the recording and supporting materials will be shared out after the event. So just for those of you who might be new to or unfamiliar with the All-In Research Network, the All-In Research Network is a collaborative initiative between the International Center for Evaluation and Development and the Feed the Future Innovation Lab for Markets, Risk, and Resilience at the University of California, Davis. The All-In Research Network's vision is African researchers generating actionable evidence to support effective development policies in their countries. And we have myriad objectives, primarily to serve as a center for research excellence for the global development community, but also to increase recognition of and demand for African-led research, leverage the existing skills, knowledge, and ideas of local researchers, support local capacity strengthening, and then increase collaboration and funding opportunities for members, which again will tie into our conversation today very directly. So with that, I'm going to stop with housekeeping and pass to Bijou to take us through our day's presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tara. Hello, everyone. Hello. It's good to see you all here. Now, before we begin, I do want to make a note. Yes, we're going to have Q&A at the end, but we're also going to be interacting because I'm not a fan of those workshops where you sit there and be quiet and listen and then go home and wonder, okay, what was the point of that, right? So we're gonna chat. You can throw your answers in the chat box. Yeah, and let's learn together. So without much further ado, let's get started. Okay, first off, can everybody see my screen? Yes. If you can, please put in a
Looks
thumbs
great.
up or,
Yeah,
okay,
great.
great. Thank you. All right, so I'll start with who I am first, right? I am Bijou Ate. I am the ICE Communications Officer. I am also, just to give you a quick blurb of who I am, I'm a pastor's kid, missionary's kid, traveler, blogger. I've been writing and communicating since I was 11 years old, diaries to blogs to everything. I am an industrial organizational psychologist as well. I specialize in training and development. I coach and so forth and so on. Now, I gained special respect for researchers, especially after my master's program, when I had to do my thesis, and I respect you guys for the work you do because it is not easy at all. Now, with all of that in mind, the work that you've done also needs to be put out there. So that's why we're having this workshop, just to make sure that you're able to tell your stories, get attention on the impact that your research is making within the community. Now, there are three things I care about, like I said, making an impact through stories, right? Helping others fulfill their goals in a creative way, and I love food, good food. That's what life is about. Anyway, so let's start with the age-old question. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it really make a sound? Right? We've heard that before. And if you haven't heard that before, think about it. Does it make a sound if no one's there to hear it? Now, that's the premise for our workshop today, which is when it comes to development impact, when it comes to research, if you've done all this research and no one reads it, no one knows about it, are you really making an impact? So let's move on and talk about what we're looking at today. We're going to talk about social media. The question is why? Why are we even using it? And then we're going to focus on LinkedIn specifically. We're going to talk about how to begin. And if you've already begun, how to connect, what to post. We're going to deal with general tips and tricks. And then we're going to look at case studies. We're going to hear from two people who have been using social media and LinkedIn specifically in different ways. And then we're also going to do a little bit of practice. All right. So here we go. First off, for my researchers, I know you guys like facts and figures, so here we go with our facts and figures. 63% of the global population uses social media. Of that 63%, 900 million are LinkedIn members. Of that 900 million, 645 million and more are professionals, and 217,000 and more are nonprofit organizations such as Hewlett Foundation, USAID, Feed the Future, and so forth and so on. I'm sure you guys know of even more. A lot of the platforms which are popular are LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There are a few others like ResearchGate, especially for the researchers, but we are going to focus on LinkedIn today. And we're going to be looking at the types of posts that normally come up, including pictures, infographics, videos, and text. All right. Now, if everybody is ready, I need keyboard warriors, please. I'm going to ask you two questions. I want you to throw in one or two words into the chat box. Are we ready? What are the pros and cons of social media? First off, what are the cons? Throw in the chat real quick, one or two words. What do you think the cons of using social media are? Or even better, I like to hear voices. Please raise your hand and I'll unmute you and you can speak up. Anyone? What are the cons of social media? Just throw a couple of words into the chat. Yep, time consuming. Yep, very much so. All right, what else? Visibility of works to other environments of people. Yep, it's distracting. Very, very, very accurate. Anxiety inducing. True. Very true. Yeah, especially for people who aren't, very social. Okay. Okay, that's very accurate, actually. All right. Addiction. Yes. Yes, very much so. I'm sure we all know of someone who is addicted to social media, right? Now, data privacy. Yes. Internet data consuming. True, especially for those of us in Africa where we have to pay for our data. This is very accurate. Not sure if you've got the right content. Yeah. Now, all of these are cons, right? Now let's talk about the pros. What are some pros of social media? Someone, Nanaisi, put in visibility of your works to other people and environments. True. What other pros can we think of for social media? I like that. Humble bragging. Yes, yes, very, very accurate. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should, after all the work you put in. Connectivity, yes, very much. All right, what other pros do we have? Okay. Networking, yep, yep. And we're going to address a couple of these today. Yes, networks again, yeah. We're going to address a couple of these today. Cultural exchange, yes, because now you don't need to spend money to fly across the world across the globe in order to connect with people from other countries. Visibility, very true. You're not stuck within your little community anymore. Now you get to be out there. All right, so entertainment, yes, agreed. Very, very accurate. I love these answers you guys are coming out with. Opportunities to collaborate. Yep. Now, here's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to ask all of you to open your windows if you can. Open your internet browser. Go to Google, right? And then on my count, you will type in the following name. But first, let's look at the first pro for social media, which is you get to stand out. Now, how many of you have Google open? If you do, type in the name, Joseph Clotti, and I will put that in the chat for you. Okay, and I'm doing it over here too, Joseph Clotti. Type that in. Can someone tell me, put in the chat, what is the first thing you see that comes up in the search, in the Google results? The first link that comes up. ResearchGate, okay. 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 So notice how a couple of people are saying ResearchGate and linked. Aha, we're getting LinkedIn, we're getting ICE. So do you notice that LinkedIn keeps coming up? If you type in, yes, LinkedIn, okay, the second, precisely. So did you know that LinkedIn results actually tend, when you have a LinkedIn page, it tends to be the top 3 results for you when you search someone's name on Google. You can try that with Bijou Ate, you can try that with mine. You can try that with Nanesi as well. So again, LinkedIn allows you to stand out, right? Which is a big deal as a researcher. Among all these millions of professionals, you get to stand out through your LinkedIn. Next pro is you get to connect. Exactly, Tara, see, you found yourself. There you go. LinkedIn allows you to connect, and social media in general allows you to connect with other researchers, institutions, mentors, industry experts, right? Which means now what? That you have opened the door to potential research collaborations, right? And we're going to talk about some of the ways in which you can identify that. Now, the best part, as somebody noted, this is a no-cost option compared to paying for gas or paying for a plane ticket to go attend a networking event or a conference or anything like that, right? Where it's money, but LinkedIn is free. Next, you can stay informed, up to date on industry news and trends. You know, it's all the information you need in one place because most companies, especially the nonprofit organizations, now share their most relevant content and information from their websites on their social media because they know that that's where their target audience is now. Next, you can highlight your research work and the impact that you're making. And then finally, you can identify grant opportunities. And as researchers, that's the biggest part. We all know research is not free to, to run. So having that financial support is very important, right? Now, let's go on to the how. This is where a lot of people have a challenge. They feel daunted, and so they end up not even bothering. And while I'm going through this presentation, just, throw in the chat what you feel your challenge is when it comes to setting up your profile. If you don't already have a LinkedIn, if you do, what is your challenge in having your LinkedIn and being active on it? All right. Now, when it comes to your profile, there are some key aspects as a researcher. Too time consuming, okay. As a researcher, there are some key things that you really want to pay attention to, which is your name. Please, I have seen, especially for us on the Global South side, I have seen accounts where the first name is in all small letters and the last name is in all capitals. As a reader, as a consumer, it comes off looking unprofessional compared to just capitalizing your first name and capitalizing your last name or whatever other names you have. So really pay attention to that. Put your full name, capitalize it. Okay. Okay, Joe, I see a good question. I'll come to that. Your photo needs to be clean and bright and professional, but also personable because you have a personality. You're not a boring, person sitting in a tiny corner just hiding out. You're a human being. You have interests. You have a personality. That should show in your picture. And if you don't have a professional picture, you don't have the funds for one, get a friend who has an iPhone or the latest Samsung, let them capture you in the sunlight or in a room with good light. Bam, you've got your professional picture, right? Next is your headline. which is right under your name. This is basically your elevator pitch, right, of sorts. So as you can see, Asia Brown has strategist, advisor, government policy expert, all of that. It tells you exactly who she is in few words, right? And then the next thing, which is a bit longer, where you can really talk about yourself, your story, right, is your about. Right here, you can see in the bottom left corner that Cynthia has taken time to highlight the aspect of her profile that she wants you to notice immediately by putting it in all caps in bold, right, that she's worked with Dr. Oz, Seinfeld, Judge Judy, America's Got Talent. That's where your eye will be drawn to. So the same thing counts when you're a researcher. Talk about your expertise, your research interests. You know, did you study at Harvard, for example, or, you know, Jomo Kenyatta University? Put it in there, emphasize it, right? Talk about your passions and the impact of your work. Next up, links, which very few people actually are aware that this exists now, thanks to LinkedIn's updates. But you can share a blog, you can share your portfolio. If you've got your ResearchGate account, share it on there so people have access to it. They don't need to go searching on Google for you, right? You talk about your skills, and this is the best place for endorsements. We'll talk about that in a moment. And then finally, projects. If you've published, if you have articles, if you have, you know, research projects themselves, you can share that on LinkedIn too. Again, remember, this is basically a snapshot of who you are and everything about you in one place. So you don't have to share different profiles. Just put it all on your LinkedIn and it's done the work for you. Now, we talk about connecting and opportunities. The best way to connect is by building your network. Please do keep in mind that you can connect with people and you can follow them. There is a difference. If you're following them, it means that you get to see posts that they write and whatnot. When you connect with them, it means you get to send them messages. We can talk more in detail and we can do another session maybe on how to run each of these steps. But for now, just know that you can build your network just by connecting with people. And a tip for those who are trying to connect, don't just send a connect request. Send a personalized message, but be really careful about who you send it to, because you have a limit of 5 per month every month, right? For free. If you have the premium, then it's unlimited. Okay, so be smart and be very intentional about who you're sending those personalized messages to. If you see Tara, for example, who works for, you know, MRR, Feed the Future MRR, and you say you want to connect with her and you don't really know how to do it, this is an opportunity for you to send a message saying, hi, Tara, I was in the ARN session. I'd love to connect because I looked at your profile and it looks interesting. And send it. That's it. Now, when it comes to collaborative articles, that is an opportunity for you to share your expertise. And this is a feature on LinkedIn, which is automated. Based on your profile, LinkedIn will send you certain articles that it thinks you can contribute to. This is a really good way to get noticed. It's a really good way to build your network as well, because people within the collaborative articles read each other's contributions and then they connect with each other. They get to learn more, they get to stay connected. Next is newsletters, which I'll be coming to in a moment, company pages, and groups. So let's go through those three. Newsletters normally are run by companies, but you as an individual on LinkedIn can actually have a newsletter as well. If there's information that you want to share monthly or weekly or bi-weekly, you can put it in a newsletter. If there's information that you want to learn as well about, you know, information within news within your field, that's what the newsletters are for. And there's so many, there are hundreds of thousands on LinkedIn that you can look at. Guaranteed you will find something pertaining to your field of interest. Next, you have company pages. These ones are a big deal because, again, we mentioned that companies and organizations share a lot of the pertinent information from their website, from their projects on their company pages. And this is where the opportunities come in, research funding. Are you ready to jump in? So remember that we have over 217,000 nonprofits. Here are some of them and why they matter to you. USAID has shared a grant opportunity. UCL Public Policy has also shared a public grant opportunity. Global Disaster Preparedness, Canadian Institutes of Health Research. There's even a newsletter, Hope Fusion Africa, which publishes grant and fellowship opportunities. And then groups, which talk just about research, grants, calls for proposals, TORs, all of them. So are you starting to get, the benefits of LinkedIn, the pros of LinkedIn, especially as researchers? Instead of running around Google, now everything is in one space. This is basically Google for professionals, right? All right, and please remember, keep putting your questions in the chat box, okay? Now let's talk about posting, the part which seems to be daunting to people. And it kind of answers Joseph's question about you don't know what to put there, so you become visible. You don't need to lie. You don't need to make up anything at all. Just share. Now, there are three things to note when you're posting on LinkedIn. First question is, why are you even posting, right? Second is, what are you posting and how? What methods? What content? So, again, remember our question about if a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't, and nobody is there to hear it, doesn't make a sound. You're talking about your research. You're talking about the stories behind your research, the impact that is bringing. What you're doing is basically connecting with the community. So you can talk about your research activities and your non-research activities as well. This one is a fine line, and someone asked me earlier about how do you know that fine line between the personal and the professional? We'll see an example of that. There's one of our researchers on here who will talk about her experience, and you'll get to see it yourself for how to balance, the professional and the personal. Talk about recent publications. You'll see an example of that as well. If you publish something and you're excited about it, you have a right to humble brag. I like that term somebody used. Talk about the stories behind your research. Not everything is going to make it into your scholarly journals. Not everything is going to make it into the articles, into your publications. But there are stories behind the experiences. Did you, as you were collecting data, did you meet some farmers who you thought had just a beautiful story to share? And, their experiences, the challenges they're having, their rags to riches, whatever it is, share that, because that's what people want to see. They want to see the humanity of your research as well as the facts and figures, because then it makes it more relatable. All right. Next is events. Did you go to a conference? Did you go to the E2A conference? This is a little bit of a advertisement. Did you go to the E2A conference? Talk about it. Did you go to a workshop like this one? Talk about it. Did you meet up with some fellow researchers or some peers, or meet with the head of UNESCO? Share it on social media as well, right? If you have reflections around some of the things that your research is bringing up beyond what you can put into your publication, share that. Industry trends and news also, please share it, okay? And you can use photos, you can use stories, and especially as researchers, you can use infographics, all right? There's no better way to share facts and figures than to make them colorful and interesting and entertaining. That's the way to get the masses and even funders and policymakers to pay attention. If you make it relatable, if you make it attractive and still true to form. So no lies whatsoever, just humanity, just genuineness and accuracy. All right. So again, let's take a look at this post right here. This one is by one of our favorite, Dr. Charles Yao Autry, and you can find his LinkedIn. You can search for him on LinkedIn after. Dr. Charles is always, always, always posting about experiences he's had. He adds in photos, you know, and then allows people to react and comment as well as repost what it is he's put on there. Dr. Charles is very committed to his LinkedIn. So you can see examples of how to be active if you want to be a little more active on LinkedIn. But there is no pressure to be this active either. It does not have to be a full-time job, especially for those of you who are very busy or who feel like you don't really have that much content to put out there. LinkedIn is friendly to researchers and to professionals in that you don't have to be creative every single time. Even resharing a post counts as an interaction, right? It triggers and encourages people to connect with you. It places you in a space where people can recognize that you have something to say, right? Again, finding that fine line between the personal and the professional is not that tricky, but it is a little bit, it requires consideration. Okay? So with all of that, I know we've talked about a lot. Now, based on everything I've said so far, we're now going to talk about tips and tricks, and then we're also going to hear from Miriam and Kwadwo. Please, again, remember to put your questions in the chat box or even your comments. Whatever it is that you have to say, please put it in the chat box or raise your hand and Tara and I can unmute you and hear from you. Now, let's talk about tips and tricks. Okay, because we talked about the fact that a lot of you don't have time to be there full time. It is time consuming if you allow it to be. Here's the best part of using LinkedIn as a researcher. You can keep a low maintenance profile. It doesn't require much. You don't have to be writing every single day. You don't have to be on there every single day, every hour. You don't even have to be there more than once a week or once every couple of weeks, right? Next, schedule your LinkedIn time. Take out your phone, set a timer, or even, you know, set an appointment for yourself on Google Calendar. That's what I've started doing, which is block 15 minutes or even 5 minutes. Go on LinkedIn, scroll through your feed, see what posts you like, see what posts are interesting to you, share them, comment, like, and you're done. That's it. Low maintenance. Next thing is to ask your connections for recommendations, for testimonials, and for endorsements. We'll have to go into the details of how to do all of that another time, but it is fairly obvious when you go to LinkedIn, when you add in your skills, you can ask your connections to endorse your skills, which means that you really are good at what you say you're good at, which means, again, you're not lying because you have people to back it up. And then people can even write testimonials for you. I worked with Francis, and he was a great researcher, team worker. He collaborates beautifully. He comes up with all these engaging ideas. There's your testimonial, right? Next, you can request people to tag you in relevant posts. The beauty of this one is when you go on your LinkedIn feed, people will see that you've been tagged in something. Even if you don't do anything, you don't have to like the post, you don't have to reshare it, but they will see that you were tagged in it and they'll wonder, okay, what does this person have to do with that? Who is this person? And from there, your profile becomes visible. Finally, share your profile. I see a lot of people create their LinkedIns and then they leave it on LinkedIn. Put it on your CV, put it on your blog, put it on your business card, share it on your WhatsApp. You're allowed to do that too. So people can see what it is you're doing, where it is that you're acting. Okay. I know I've given you a lot. Is everybody still okay? What are the benefits of using LinkedIn Premium? Whew, okay. We'll come back to that during the Q&A because that's a bit further out, but it's still very valid. Now, based on everything we've talked about, I want you all to hear from your fellow researchers. So we're going to talk with Kwadwo, Dr. Kwadwo, and Miriam as well. But before we do that, let's take a look at two of your fellow researchers and how they're using their LinkedIn. Remember, we talked about our profiles and some of the publications that you can share. This is Dr. Howard White. If you don't know about him, this right here will tell you everything you need to know. Dr. Howard White is basically, when it comes to evaluation and evidence synthesis, evidence and gap maps, that's what he does. And so that's what he highlighted. He didn't feel the need to add anything else to the headlines. Evaluation and evidence synthesis tells you everything about his work, right? You have his universities and where he works. You also have a background photo, which is attractive, and it relates to where he's located, which is here in India. You have his connections, and you'll also see mutual connections, which confirms for you that this really is Dr. Howard White. On the other side, on the right side, you've got Dr. Charles Autry. Remember, I told you he tends to be very active on LinkedIn. His profile is actually one which I would say is a great profile to reference as a researcher. Dr. Charles has emphasized, has featured two different works which he feels are important to his portfolio. So because they're featured here, now all you have to do, instead of going to Google or look in ResearchGate before finding them, you can click on them and go straight to the links and to the document. So this is a prime example of how to use LinkedIn as a researcher. So now let's hear from, I'll start with Dr. Kwadwo Danso-Mensah. He is the Director of Research and Evaluation Director of Research, here at ICE. So, Dr. Kwadwo, can you unmute and let's have a brief chat?
Yep. Thank you, Bijou.
All right, thank you. All right, so Doc, tell us real quick, you and I, we worked on your profile together. Do you remember what your profile looked like at the beginning?
It didn't look anything good. I think initially I've always had the idea that social media is very time consuming, and perhaps potentially very addictive. So I really personally anyway try to do anything on social media, especially on, let's say, Twitter, LinkedIn, and other places. Of course, I use WhatsApp just for general engagement across communities. But hardly do I use these professional places to actually engage until I was like, no, I need to perhaps get real serious about this. So I think I contacted you, came to your office, and we had a very good chat. And we sat down, I think 20 to 30 minutes or so, and then we set up something. I'm not sure if I've been very engaged, but I think it's been good so far.
Okay, thank you. And see, so Dr. Kwadwo is an example of what I think is a beautiful example of low maintenance, a low maintenance profile. Kwadwo, one thing you do, which I've noticed, is that you like to repost a lot, or you react.
Yeah.
Am I correct? Okay. Right?
Very
And it
correct.
doesn't, exactly. And it doesn't require
So,
much. When you and I, yes, go ahead, please.
yeah, so like I said, my work has been it's generally very stressful, very time consuming, exactly. So actually having time to actually compose something and always post is normally a challenge for me. So I rely on reposting and just sharing or a quick comment or like on something that I think is interesting. So that's normally what I will do. Basically, I try to see something that I've seen that it's within what I do. Maybe something ICE is doing, I'm involved, and I see that it has been posted by yourself or anyone in the communications team. Then I just repost and then I like. And I've seen that have given me some traction. People normally will react, some impressions that are very engaging, get people slide into my DM, ask questions, and then I take it from there.
Yeah. See, and that's an excellent example of it does not have to be a full-time job. Now, for people like me, communications is our job. So my job is to make sure that I'm consistently posting, I'm consistently coming up with new content. But for researchers like you all, you don't have that time, you don't have that energy. For pity's sake, you can barely even make your cup of coffee and make it to work on time. So now to also require you to be on LinkedIn all the time, you know, Dr. Clotte, same thing. You don't have to be active in the same way that we communications people are active. All you need to do is be present. One thing I told Dr. Kwadwo was that I just need you to have your account set up. Let me do the rest, and then you can reshare. So I'll write the article about Dr. Kwadwo or about Dr. Clotte or about Miriam, and then tag them. Once we tag you, the rest is easy enough. You just reshare, you just like, and you're good to go. So let us do the work for you. If you do not have a communications team, again, that's where your connections come in, because I can guarantee you some of your connections are more active on LinkedIn than you are, right? So let them tag you, let them mention you, let them put you in a comment. And that's all you need to do. Just share that. And half the work, more than half the work is done, right? So as you can see, like I said, Dr. Kwadwo reposts, and the only time that he posts, which is something I've noticed, and it's actually a very smart technique, is when it has to do with something that he has published. That one, only he can tell that story better than I could about him. So that's where he posts. But apart from that, reposting is a simple enough thing for him to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Dr.
So,
Clotte, yes, Dr. Kwadwo.
yeah, about posting maybe something I've published. I realize no one will do that for me, right? So
Exactly.
as I know that there is some publication I've done, especially when I know the stress it took to get that thing out, I would like to
Right.
quickly put together something and then post it. So that will be some time I have to invest to try and do that. And that might be it. Maybe I have to work more on maybe extracting some of the real findings and engaging my followers more. But
There
yeah,
you go.
aside that, most of the things I do within ICE, you've been great at, trying to put it out there. So I will just have to reshare and then like, and it goes
Yeah.
on that way.
Yeah. And that's a very valid point, you know, that it does take a little bit of effort if you want to extract the most valid information, the most relevant information. But at the same time, if you just set aside that time on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly or monthly basis, you know, you have friends, guaranteed you have people who love being grammar police, who love being proofreaders. Use them, and then put your story out there. Dr. Clotte.
Yeah, thank you, Bijou. Thank you, Kojo, for the presentation so far. I'm looking at Kojo's page and I can see Dr. Schiller's profile page here. And I'm asking myself, why is it that I'm not active? Then my mind draws me to my my profile picture, and I think ResearchGate, and it's a very dull picture. Am I supposed to be putting something nice? Look at Kojo's picture. When you look at it, okay, this guy is handsome. I see Sheila in a Akape. I see Desi out there, like, okay. I mean, can you maybe talk a little about how to make your profile exciting? When somebody see, when you open my ResearchGate page, nobody tell you to close it because it's you don't want to, even if I put my papers there, you don't care. The page is so down. The picture is So can you,
Okay.
I mean something, because I see, like I'm saying, like, I see Kudos picture and wow, this nice guy. Let me see about him. I mean something. But can you maybe talk about that? I mean, I'm sure it's all about communication, eh? Thank
Yes,
you.
and you're welcome. And thank you for that question. It's a great question. We can come back to more details at the end, but remember that when we were talking about the key aspects of your profile, and I will share this presentation so everybody can go through it after. When you're talking about the key aspects of your profile, right? When it comes to your photo, you want to make sure that it's bright. It doesn't have to be bright in terms of your background colors and everything. And you'll see that in the next testimonial. The background does not have to be super bright. It just needs to be well lit, so that people can see you. And another thing, I notice a lot of people, I think Dr. Joe, you do this as well. A lot of people put their full body photos in the profile picture. Now, the thing is, LinkedIn has limited the size of the photo that you can use, which means that you have to be conscious of the fact that when people look at it, especially on a smaller screen, they're going to see very little detail, which is why you want to focus on your face, as Kojo has done here, right? Make sure that your face is visible. That's the most important thing. That's how people can tell you from the multiple other clottes there are, especially for us Africans who love, using the same name more or less. So how do you determine that the John Oppong or Joseph Oppong or Kwadwo Oppong is the same one that you're looking for compared to the 15 others who will show up on LinkedIn? His profile picture. So you want to make sure, one, that your face is visible and that, again, the picture is well lit. I hope that answers your question. All right. And now to prove that point, let's go on to Miriam Oppong, who is our information research and information specialist here at ICE. All right. So Miriam, are you there? Do we have you?
Yes, hi, Bijou, I'm here. Please, can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. And I don't know if you guys can see, as Miriam is talking, her profile picture on Zoom comes up. That's the same one that she has on her LinkedIn. You can see her face. It's bright, it's different, it's stylish, right? So now, let me note one thing before Miriam comes in. Miriam's posts are a beautiful example of mixing the personal and the professional, finding that fine line and walking it. She uses, and you can read more about it on her profile, so go visit her profile. Her post starts out with something, a personal experience, live, and then she ties it into the work that she's doing. Not only does she do that, she uses hashtags, and then she also went ahead and tagged a senator who she respected, who inspired this post. And do you see the reaction here? The senator came from Kenya. The senator actually came and liked Miriam's post. And Miriam, if I'm not wrong, you guys are now connected, right?
I think so. I sent her a connection request, but I haven't followed up on it to see if she's accepted.
There you go. And chances of her recognizing the name are much higher. So now she's connected with a policymaker, right? So you all, the interactions are very important. The storytelling is also very important. Miriam comes again with another post where she has added in a picture. Look at the reactions here, 63, 10 comments, 5 reposts. Because she engaged in a conversation, or she encouraged conversation, and then added in something which would draw people in. So Miriam, go ahead and tell us about that, because you're actually very excellent at doing that.
Thank you, Bijou. And I must admit that I'm still new to this because I remember as of last year, I was just reflecting as you were talking about LinkedIn. I've had various discussions with people this year about the importance of LinkedIn. But as at the beginning of last year, I wasn't active on LinkedIn. My account was dull. I had some random pictures. Joseph just spoke about how do you get that right picture. So before, I also had just a random picture on LinkedIn, but I actually had to go to a photo studio to get one taken. When I realized after some missed opportunities and entering a room and they're like, oh, okay, there are connections to be made, potential employers, and they're like, okay, would like to check you out on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, I don't really have much on LinkedIn. Yes. So, so after a lot of reflections, I realized that no, I need to start engaging more on LinkedIn. So that's when I updated my profile picture. I updated my skills, what I've actually done. Because over time, I had done trainings, I had pursued higher education, I had won awards, and all these were like in hard copies. I have certificates of it just hidden in a drawer somewhere. And anytime I need one of them, I'll quickly scan it into soft copy and just use it for something. Yes, so I'm still new, I'm still learning. Bijou, I usually come to you as and when I need something. But what I have realized, what I have realized is that since I started engaging more on LinkedIn, it's opened a lot of doors. I've networked with so many people. I've gotten the opportunity to share what we are doing as researchers with other people. So I'm still on the journey. I'm still learning. I think, Bijou, you mentioned something about having people around you to proofread your post.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I usually do because I'd put something in and then I'll just quickly be like, Bijou, can you check this for me? Let's make sure that it's okay to put out there. So I think that it's just about trying to engage more. I'm still in that journey and I'm still learning. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're doing amazing. And again, everyone, you remember, and I want to keep emphasizing this part. Thank you so much, Miriam and Dr. Kwadwo, for sharing. I want to emphasize this part. Life is so busy now, and the more you're doing, the less time you have for this. Understandably, the pressure does not need to be there at all. The whole point is you having an opportunity to share your story because nobody knows your story better than you. I can't tell the story of the tree that fell in the forest better than it can tell its own story. I was standing there, a squirrel bit into my bark, and the next thing I know, I can tell that I might embellish it more than needs to be, or I might not emphasize the important parts of it. So the best part is to tell your story, but keep it simple. Don't pressure yourself into doing something which is outside of your style. If it's not your style of speaking, don't use it. Because eventually your story, what it is that the message you're trying to get across will get lost if you don't speak as yourself. Now, don't just paste facts and figures and then leave it there, but think about if you're having a conversation one-on-one with someone, what would you say? Oh, yeah, what would you say? What would you try to highlight? So, yeah, we can do the Q&A and then we'll go to the last slide. So Eunice, let me find you and get you to unmute so that you can ask your question. Sorry about that. So Eunice, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Bijou. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. I have a question for Miriam. So I think that first of all, Miriam and I go a bit way back. So we share the same similar surname. But I have a question for Miriam. When you said that you were very dormant, should I say, you had a LinkedIn profile, but I'm just really wondering, like, why do you think like what really stopped you from all these years? Assuming you had it for years, I don't know how long you've had it. That what do you think stopped you, and how were you able to overcome that? Obviously, you did mention that you've got help from Bijou as well, but what happened? What was the barrier that now you've been able to overcome? So that's my question for Miriam. Thank you.
Oh, Bijou, can I go ahead and answer? Or you're taking all the
Yes,
questions?
please. No, please go ahead. And while
Yes.
Miriam is answering, please, everybody else put your questions in the comments or raise your hand, okay? Go ahead, Miriam.
Yes, okay. So Eunice, thank you for your question. And as Eunice says, we go way back. And we've actually had some conversations on LinkedIn and then social media. So before I thought it wasn't necessary. I thought what I'm doing is enough. I just need to do it. I don't need to put out the information out there. I always thought that, okay, why is this person LinkedIn? You know, Eunice mentioned the humble bragging thing. So before I thought it was just the bragging without the humble part. Yes. But over time, and as I said, it was just maybe missed opportunities also had to like push me out there. Because I'd enter a room, especially in the international environment, when you're outside Ghana, and there are potential great networks, there are potential employers. And everyone is like, oh, okay, can we check it out on LinkedIn? And then I'm always thinking, I don't really have much to show for in LinkedIn. Can I send you my CV and then scan copies of my certificates to show you what I've done? And of course, those things come in. But I realize these days that might come in at the latter part. But probably one might catch their eye to see you from the beginning, to call you in the first place before you are even asked to bring in your CV and all those certificates that we put somewhere and scan as and when we need it might be your LinkedIn profile. And in this day and age where companies also want to be out there, people also need to know that if we employ this person, and sometimes not just as a comms person, even as a researcher, is this someone who can also make sure that our work reaches, well, everywhere, basically. So they might actually check how many connections does this person have. Do you have 500 plus, which is the thing on LinkedIn, or do you have like 10 connections? So I think for me, maybe it was more or less to make sure that I don't get left behind. That was one of the main things that pushed me to know that, okay, I really need to work on my LinkedIn. So I think, Eunice, the other question was, how did I start? So I also check out other people's profiles, which also inspires me. So I look at people who are really engaging on LinkedIn, and then I look at how they've set up their profile, and then I try to replicate. So basically, that was one of the main things that helped me. And then, of course, we have our comms people in ICE too, who also gave me a hand. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Oops, sorry, I lost my screen. Thank you, Miriam. And what Miriam said is a very important part of it. All these organizations, at the end of it all, it's about branding as well. So you, even as a researcher, you become their brand ambassador in the work that they're doing, you know, in the information that they're putting out and the impact they're making. So you become your brand ambassador and you become that of the organization, the funder, whoever it is you're collaborating with. That's why LinkedIn is very important as a researcher. And Miriam mentioned something about certificates. LinkedIn has the feature for all of that now because they realize, again, LinkedIn was made primarily for professionals. And then it somehow took a weird turn for weird stories, but we won't go into that. But it was primarily made for professionals. And so every update they make is with you all in mind, which means that now you can share your portfolios, you can share your publications and projects, you can also share your licenses and certifications. That's the beauty of it.
So thank you very much, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Yes.